Welcome everyone to week 19 podcast newsletter Future of Data podcast. Today we have Maria and I'm
Hi,
Vishal.
Vishal.
Hey, so we'll talk about, and you know how it works. So we'll talk about what's in the newsletter this week. And for simplicity, we will cover the web version of the newsletter. So I think to everyone joining for the first time, we have started a newsletter that is powered by our AI bot called Tao, and it generates a separate newsletter for web audience and separate newsletters for local people in various cities. So that it can learn about those clusters and sort of adapt. So for simplicity, we'll also produce a podcast, and we'll talk about what's in this week's newsletter and what Mr. or Miss Tao is thinking when they come up with a newsletter. So uh, I have with me my friend and sort of an influencer in Big Data space from Raleigh, Maria. So Maria,
Oh, thank you.
you want to say
Yeah,
something to our folks?
we've been having a lot of fun. This area is really booming with some of the greatest and latest technology, and so we've had quite eventful few weeks, and it's so great to see where everyone from the different areas of the world are kind of having the same conversations and around the same things. So.
Interesting. So,
Mhm.
anything fun happening in Raleigh?
Well, we did have last week a big data dive with SAS, which is the software company that does analytics and statistics software, and DataKind, which is a nonprofit that supports data scientists doing projects for social impact, social positive impact, and solving some of the suffering of the world. So we had four different groups: Habitat for Humanity. We had Counter Tools, which worked on like healthcare policy. We also had the Anti-Defamation League with hate crimes, and
Wow.
Step Up Durham, which was like upward mobility. And so those four groups each had over a dozen members that were volunteers helping, and we all felt great about the progress that we made. A lot of cleaning data, a lot of getting things ready so that we can put them into different models, predictive models, and use them for insights. But we had some takeaways from each of the groups, and we're proud of what we did. And so I've also been keeping an eye on these kind of hackathons that have been going on, and they are popping up everywhere. So it's really exciting to see that more and more folks are getting interested in what analytics and what the technologies can do to help with cities and smart cities and having communities that support each other.
Nice. So it's called Data for Good, or what's the organization called?
That was one of the organizations, yeah, that was part of it. There were quite a few that were collaborating, so we called it a data dive.
Okay. So a big shout out for Data for Good. I think they are doing some
Yeah.
fabulous work, and I think I'm impressed with our friends there. Like we need some social responsibility and some people sort of handling the data science problem in this sort of dark alleys, which are not very visible for businesses or corporate sort of hacking. So I great job, guys, and I think wish you all the luck
Yeah.
and go.
Thank you, Vishal, because I
Yeah.
do hear more people at conferences, at our large conferences, doing keynote speaking where they're incorporating good business is part of, taking care of the community and taking care of the customer. So
Nice.
just
And
good business.
I have one more good news for our audience. So
Yay.
today we got the ranking of big data top 100 influencers from our friends at Analytica. So to
Oh, wow.
everyone
Yeah.
who's not sure what Analytica is, they are one of the premier organization to rate the influencer marketing. Check out that report. I think we'll be leaving that link in our description below. So we Analytics Week, because of your love, passion, hard work, and support, is ranked third in the world's most big data influential brand of the world. So
That's
this is
awesome.
so cool.
That's because our members are so awesome.
I don't believe why. Like something must be glitch. No, I think it's our audience love and their care. So thank you guys. I think and gals,
Yeah.
keep supporting our initiative. We want to take our analytics to the 99%, and your love and passion takes us there. And Analytica friends, thank you so much for the lovely honor. We'll take it.
Yeah.
It's fun, and thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll keep on bringing that good news on analytics and
I know.
um,
So, Maria, what do you think? Like, this is. It's good to be some like attached to something that's doing some fun. At least someone recognizing us, which is nice.
mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's
The day.
get on the meat of the week. So it's week 19
Uh-huh.
from what we learned. So we have this week is our newsletter week. That's why you see our faces.
Mhm.
So do you want to go over the cover of the week?
So I think every local area has a different cartoon, right? But the one for this one that's on the web, right, is kind of funny. It's a I think this is another Dilbert one,
Yes.
right?
Somehow Mr. or Miss Tao is a big fan of Dilbert cartoons when it comes to data. And by the way,
Yeah.
from what we know, we have fed some training data, some training sort of some JPEGs, PNGs, and GIFs and whatnot. And now it's Tao is doing its own thing and getting all this cartoon. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. This is an interesting cartoon because it's really making fun of the communication, I think, of how we relate with the data. This when character is asking Dilbert for his accuracy advice. And of course, like any good data scientist, he asks for more information, right? And there comes tension and frustration, and nobody understands what's happening. So he just says, there's no inaccuracies at all.
It's interesting.
And
So that's
yeah,
funny.
so it's a little, it is something that I think that people deal with on a daily basis. We feel their pain through this through this comic here.
I think what I get kick out of this was that the very fact that how Dilbert and his friends say like save themselves from analysis paralysis. So they just round it up saying, "Hey, is there any accuracy?" No one sees it and say, "Hey, now there's no inaccuracy," because no one claim that there's any inaccuracy or not. So it's I think it's what we see in our day to day lives. Like if 90% of our problems and actually I'm paraphrasing here. So they are the problems that we are not really um, we don't have much any way to sort of find or corroborate or sort of find inaccuracies in that because of resource crunch because we don't want to go in analysis paralysis. And in fact I think what I love about this particular topic, you if you give it to AI, or if you again I'm going in that direction where sort of if you can automate the accuracy or finding mechanism giving to AI, they may go on again that rat chase of analysis paralysis, right? So and then knowing context, sure we can do
Hmm.
that, but they sort of they have to lay out on some boundaries on pre-telling them what the context is and all that. So it's a big human, but humans are really relatively, I don't know whether we're doing good job because we also have the same problem. But anyways, fun cartoon. It
That made
gives.
me think of, Vishal, that made me think of that story how there's things that you can't recognize when you don't know what you don't know. So,
Ah,
like there was a story about the Native Americans didn't see the boats coming because they didn't have a reference point of understanding what that was. And
wow.
so they just didn't see it, you know. And I think that it made me think about that because of some of the inaccuracies are like that. If we are not accustomed to dealing with them, um, they are we don't even see them. So it
Interesting.
does take it does take a lot of effort to make sure that we are doing things correctly.
I agree. I agree. I think well said. I agree with
Yeah.
you. So now let's talk about bunch of local events and sessions. And I think since it's a web newsletter, local means on the web.
Right.
And I am seeing so there are three sessions that Tao picked. So one is anyone can be a data scientist with case study classifying cars. So I think this is again a beautiful webinar, by the way. So one of the primitive or one of the sort of very um, uh, intro understanding of data sciences to understand how algorithms classify things. So how do I know it's a car? I know it
Hmm.
has some shape in it. I know it's some colors in it, but is it bus? Is it car? Like how do algorithms classify something as a car? And that's like the 101 of understanding how algorithms learn, looking at the data and picture data. So I think this would be a fascinating, I'm hoping, a webinar, a quick snapshot or quick snap learning on the fact that how data science could actually help you understand whatever is standing in front of you is a car. And then you can take this analogy and extrapolate, like how do you figure out if any x-ray has um, any potential cancerous cell development that they are seeing, or any anomalies that we are seeing, if this is routine anomaly or if this is something that we should be alarmed about, or if there is actually an anomaly by definition. So very good starting stepping use case.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah,
think
I agree. Cause
I would say this is the best 1 hour spent in this session. What do you think, Maria?
yeah, I agree. Because once you put things into containers or you categorize them, um, everything that goes from there is kind of dependent.
That's
So,
true.
it's really important that those things have been thought through.
Interesting. And next session. So I'm seeing this another session that talks about unlock the data science in you with case study of classifying cars. I think it's similar to the first one. I think it's from the same vendors, but since it's named differently, and that's where even Tao got fooled. So it considered it
Mm,
two different events that are worth noting. So I still love those selections. I think if I would Tao, I would do the same thing. So it's kind of a double shout out. Just go and
hmm.
watch this. This is important. And then the middle one is information session on Azure machine learning training. So again, our friends at Microsoft doing a lot of uh, push around letting explaining people how they can use Azure, and this is again a very good tutorial by Badal Bordia and Vishal Soni, good names who they do frequent training and all, to train folks what is machine learning. So
Hmm.
it's a good machine learning preview sprinkled on Azure platform. But even if you don't
Hmm.
want to use Azure as a platform, I think it's a relevant conversation. It's a relevant sort of talk to pursue. So definitely a shout out, and must check it out for our audience. What do you think, Maria?
Yeah, I think these are great also because these are the things that you can access for free online and at any time. So you're curious and there's no substitute for immersion. So you
Right.
want to dive in there and start hearing all about it and start, absorbing the terminology and the language, and then you can start having conversations about it and getting closer to whatever your goals are. But it really helps with the filtering the process when you watch webinars like this and webcasts like this because it just gives you more information.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's just 1 hour spent.
Hmm.
So on 1 hour, like this podcast probably will end up becoming 1 hour. So it's very snappy. Watch or listen while going to office or on the way to office, and it's you can just put it on an earphone and just hear it when you're doing some other chores. So again, very snappy, and as you rightly said, free, right? So that's again,
Hmm.
who would ever complain picking something free, and which is something which actually is relevant. So talking about free, our featured course is free.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, our basics, our programming language introduction, free. I think it's from Udemy, I guess. One of the best R course in the world in Udemy, and Mr. and Miss Tao picked it. So shout out to this program. Very highly reviewed. People love it. It's a great introduction. It just gives you enough information about R, not overload you, not fry your circuits on what's happening in the R. It's just a very good stepping stone R program on Udemy. And Maria, question for you: Are you R or Python team?
I think they have their use cases for whatever is relevant at the time, and I've used both. I like that they have packages that you can download for different things, and so it's really just happen. It just depends on where we're getting the data from and in what context we're using it.
Interesting. So, by the way, full disclosure, I am Team Python. So,
Oh
don't beat me
yeah.
to it. But yeah, that's a big debate. Um, sure, R is too. It's equally good, but not as good as. I don't know. I don't want to go there. Again, I'm going to the dark alleys there. So yeah. Uh,
Well, there's all kinds of different tools for different things, and I know that sometimes folks can get very protective about their tools, and I have seen some very heated and passionate debates. But I'm glad that more people are figuring out ways to collaborate despite their passion for their own
oh
tool.
yeah, and I think kudos to the R community. I think they made it so simple for anyone
Yeah,
who, like, they made pretty much, if you say anyone could be data scientist, I think R should get 100% of the credit on that. I think they did.
yeah.
They made it so simple for anyone or everyone to just deploy a R studio and start doing. They just come with sample scripts and all that. I think full marks to them. But it's, again, I think it's that if you want to do more embedding, if you want to do more playing around with sci-fi math, like if you want to do sort of very systematic functional sort of routines,
Hmm.
again, I'll be shooting myself in the feet, but I'm a Python guy. So
Right, and if you want to do like sentiment analysis or go more towards the web and those kind of things that are online, you definitely want, I would agree, Python helps you all the way.
nice. So I'm glad you're on the same team. Just kidding. I think it's good to be independent in this war between R and Python. So, and I'll not go in the Emacs versus XI. Anyways, I'm picking up
Well,
wrong. I'm picking up wrong sides here. So
maybe
now,
it'll get picked up from on another newsletter, and we'll definitely go in there into the discussion then.
if Tao picks between VI and Emacs, sure, I'll go in that debate too, because I'm massively opinionated. So I might step on someone's. I'm so sorry, but yeah, it's just what I feel. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
now I think I love the next section. I love this guy. So uh,
Oh, yes, this is a very good,
the
very
book,
good.
Superintelligence Path, Dangers and Strategies. I think this is the most fascinating book we all should read. And to give you a background on Nick Bostrom, a shout out to him, doing a fabulous work in extrapolating the current progress in AI and where it will take us down the road. He's a professor, faculty of philosophy, and at Oxford, and I think this makes me appreciate philosophy more than ever, right? Because
Mhm.
these are the topics, these are sort of the areas where we have to extrapolate and see philosophically what may or may not happen. So I think to give you a quick sort of a snap bite. So I think in this particular book, Nick is talking about there are sort of three ways to go. If we consider the AI progression, one is called, I think, AI path. Then the other thing is whole brain emulation, and then the I think neuromorphic path. So in the AI path, we just the AI will take over. AI will do their thing. On the whole brain emulations, the idea is that we'll take the snapshot of human brain, and just measure all the relationship where. So if suppose we cut human brain into million pieces, we'll capture information is going from where to where, and put that knowledge in a simulator, and then pretty much your conscious is alive. So it's a very fascinating phenomena. That can that happen really? Like it's and I think uh, this I think I've also seen a TED talk on Nick's philosophy. Again, fascinating guy, beautiful thinking. If you want to see what the future has entailed for, say, data analytics and what and what not, this is a must book for us to sort of capture. So
Yeah,
shout
if you
out to
definitely
Nick.
follow Elon Musk, or if you follow the singularity, or pay attention to any of those things, this is part of that train.
Yeah, because I think we need to understand how we can be super intelligent, right? So what is intelligence, and then what is super intelligence? I think that we should understand, because if we know, then we can do something about it, right? And
Hmm.
the cool thing is, and one more thing about the tone of Nick, I think the way he writes, it's very dry style of writing, but very informative. Again, it you just get lost in what he's trying to do. So shout out to Nick um, Bostrom for this amazing book, Super Intelligence. I think I should must recommend, and thank you, Tao, for picking that up, because I think it's a very good book for all of us to sort of chew and get our wrap our heads around, because this is something we all will be impacted with. So it's
Hmm.
important that early on we know what's going on, so we can do something about it. Otherwise, yeah, we don't want to be lost in this shuffle and realize that we missed the
Yeah.
boat.
And I like how there's like a scale and a gradation, because a lot of people think, oh, the robots are taking over and no robots, and then there's these extremes, and they kind of forget about this in between, that there's all these steps, all these processes that
Yes,
have to
beautiful,
get
yeah.
there, or all of the different levels of robots that there are. It doesn't mean that every robot or every machine can become AI either,
Right.
So
That's a good point.
I like that it points out that.
I think that's a great point. Um, in the tips and tricks section, I think that's the next section. So we're talking about keeping biases checked during the last mile of decision making. I think this is. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, very important.
Yes. So it's extremely important, and I think there was a book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Again,
Hmm.
shout out to those amazing book. It talks about the biases, right? So if suppose if you tell everyone bunch of numbers in thousands, and you say, ask everyone to close their eyes and pretty much guess a number, that number would most probably will be in thousands. And if you tell
Mm-hmm.
someone, say, numbers in tens or units, and then you say, hey, close your eyes and think of a number, the next number they will think is would be in units and tens. So our brain has a tendency to create biases as a safety measure. So
Mm-hmm.
now, and I think that's why it's important to understand those are like some funky limitations that we can see by if we let biases decide. And we have biases, like I, sometimes I think whatever I have been experiencing, these are the best thing ever in the world that someone could experience, right? So if my decisions are dependent on my sort of exchange with those scenarios, the answer probably would be my personal experience, which I would extrapolate as generic experience. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something very scary when it comes to data driven decision making.
Yeah, because it's all about inclusion and how much is there, right? So
Right.
you have a limited exposure or a limited frame of reference, and so the outcomes can only be outcomes can only be so many possibilities. But
Right.
with more exposure and with more data and information, then more possibilities can be created. So um, yeah, I'm all for that.
Right. I think that,
Increasing your ability to not be so biased, or
right. And
the program.
typically I think it's um it is a last mile of that so it's I think had these things come early on, you would find ways
Mm-hmm.
to circumvent around it, right? So more often than none, many of these decision biases, they end up at the last mile. So I think that's another
Mm-hmm.
important point. So it is
Then
very
that
important to
circles us
somehow,
back around to the beginning of what we said about how we categorize them,
yeah,
right?
right,
Because
exactly. So I think that's why, um, as a good data scientist, as an amazing data scientist, I think it's exceptionally important to understand these biases and to understand that you have them. Your
hmm
leadership has, they come with their biases. So it's, and then help your model train to suppress or level out those biases so you can get more data driven decisions. If suppose you want biases in your decision, I think that's all good, but yes, if you want a data driven decision, you have to find ways to free up biases. I think one of the ways to do that is taking a lot of intuitive feedback from a lot of sample sets. So asking a lot of people about their feedback and including them in the conversation. So the idea is that in those cases biases get leveled out. So if,
hmm
thank God, we hope that someone comes with a polar opinion nullifying my opinion, right? So in that ways you actually get somewhat more to reality analysis. So I think that's why the more you could be unbiased, the more you can have a good data decision. So
Yeah,
that's
and
again
that's a.
good trick.
I think it also points to the diversity too, because you can talk to other professionals from other disciplines and get ideas from there, because you might not have that much experience in that area, and so you can share your
Right.
experiences that way.
No, I think and you're picking up a great point. So diversity, right? So diversity, if you talk about innovation, right? Diversity is beautiful thing. Diversity has its own biases, by the way, but then that means more innovation, right? So you have more biased opinions, more sided opinions colliding with each other, beautifying the
hmm
analysis, right? So well said. I think that's why in many aspects you need biases. Like that's what tells you. That's many times you need this gut feel. Many times you need this intuition because data won't. Otherwise, data itself would be very dry in helping you decide. So
hmm
I was actually talking about an executive a while, few days back, and he was talking about how his CEO came to him saying that, hey, build a forecasting model, but don't take past values in consideration, right? So if you tell data to do the forecasting, it'll just look at the past and saying, hey, looking at this trend, I think next would be this with this much error. But that's not innovation, right? So that's not where. So that's flatlining, and that sort of underestimates the idea that we are evolving as a species. So kudos to that executive, kudos to this particular gentleman who took this total different approach and saying, okay, let me take uh, the scenarios which are not past trends to figure out the future trends. Love it. And by the way, they are seeing success. So there is a happy ending there for sure. So
Awesome.
beautiful. So data science Q&A. I think this is again. I love this. It just sometimes I read things which I have not. I don't know what these are. I think it's beautiful. So is it better to spend 5 days developing 90% accuracy, or 10 days designing for 100% accuracy. What do you say? What do you say, Maria? What's your thinking?
Oh, well, it's hard because I'm a perfectionist. And so I just am like, that little bit that's going to make it perfect, I will like spend too much time on. So I will be my habit would be towards the 10 days for 100% accuracy.
Nice.
But
So it's, I think, I'm again, I'm in this one. I'll play the independent card. So it depends. I think, to me, money dictates the work and effort, right? So money, time, and scope. If we have
uh-huh,
these three, sometime, if suppose I need a dirty model that I can deploy tomorrow, works as efficiently as the model that I'll work probably 2 months of rigorous effort and team inclusion and all that, and getting those inputs. So if I need just a dirty, just a somewhat, in those scenarios, getting something quick and snappy doesn't hurt. And I think that's another thing. Um, and we hear about these things a lot from even our clients many times, that get me something quick, or and then we get into this rut of, hey, I would rather spend 10 more days and get this is beautiful model ever created.
mhm.
So I think, and my pitch to in many of these scenarios is, let money dictate, let scope dictate, let time dictate what you want to
Uh-huh.
achieve. Because it's, if you want something snappy, don't be shy in just giving them a quick snappy. And many times what happens is, so many times they will buy and say, okay, I find it useful, now work on the full thing. But if you became the bottleneck of this, because I think, and this is another, actually, there's also a cultural element that I want to discuss. I'll take a few more minutes on this. So many businesses are very heavily culturally infused businesses, right? So
Yeah.
now I don't know what you're talking about data. I know things have been like this, and now you're saying you are some young fella with some good techniques. You can say you can outsmart me and my legacy. So that's many of that's a cultural problem, right? So it's
Uh-huh.
important for a good data scientist to understand that, and show them, and even for them to get some few dirty tricks quickly out, and show the value. And if they see the value, then go all the way in. I think who's no one is stopping you from sort of doing going all the way. So
Mhm.
I think, whichever, whatever your time scope and money dictates, just be very open minded, because both have equally important outcomes in the respective silos. And if you are finding yourself in a different silo, if you have an opinion that you don't agree to a particular sort of stature, I think, have a discussion, have a good dialogue, because many times you have to even tell client what you're thinking, and then you have to understand even from their perspective what they are thinking. Many times it's nothing to do with the data or the accuracy. Many times it's just, again, it's a cultural, it's a business decision.
Yeah, I have a little story to add to that one because we had cleaned some data up and wanted to take that further to make a data story out of it and have a visualization. And the perspective of the client was that if you try to make a chart, you are interpreting the data because you have to pick a range, a date range, but you have to pick a date range to make a chart.
Right.
So
Interesting.
um, we had to hash out some of that discussion because uh, there needed to be some kind of visual representation, even though the further down the road those date ranges can change based on whatever they needed it for. um, we did have to like figure out how to communicate about that. So
Right. Interesting. True. I think, valid point. So now let's talk to the right side panel bar. There's a video of the week. Ah, beautiful. So this is, um, using analytics to build big data workforce. This was one of the talks given by Greta Roberts. Shout out to you, Greta, and her team, Talent Analytics. I think she is one of the first person I have heard talking passionately about talent analytics or workforce
Mm-hmm.
analytics. I think so. That's a beautiful talk, by the way. So work is changing, and the way we hire people for this changing requirements is also changing, right? It also should change. So Greta spent good amount of time discussing, explaining bunch of the trends that they saw when they were hiring, and they were promoting the idea of data driven hiring. So they were sort of promoting the idea of, if I ask you certain things, I would know what you will be good fit at. And she's using wonderful data to make those predictions. So again, shout out to Greta Roberts and her team at Talent Analytics, doing some fabulous work. I think she's also a chair of Workforce Analytics Forum or something. Um, Check out this company, Talent Analytics, and Greta Roberts. And guys, keep doing an amazing work there. I think that's again, and do watch this video. It gives you a perspective on what exactly someone could, and I think there, at that point, there was a live test you can take, so they
Mm-hmm.
will know your compatibility test or something. So there is some free test available for where which we can take, to analyze how good data scientists or how compliant we are for a particular role or something. So again, very data driven work, one of the early adopters, bring this idea of talent analytics. I think good job there for sure. Now, we let's talk about quote of the week. I Mr. Napoleon Bonaparte. 90%
Uh-huh.
information. War is 90% information. I think couldn't have said it any better. And
Yeah.
ironically, he's a general, but I think even as a data scientist or as a business, so we work with a lot of businesses at various levels, and this is so true in almost every business situation. If you have access to information, you probably have access to smart decision making. So it's just, they are just synonymous. A good decision is synonymous to good information. So I think, I wish it's as easy as it is it written, but it is definitely, it's I think it's a well said quote from Napoleon Bonaparte. What is 90% information? What do you think, Maria?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it the other day because things like you took the words right out of my mouth for the uh, video of the week because I was thinking that, things are changing and the workforce is changing and everything is changing and we're navigating while things are changing. It's a very moving and dynamic environment. And I was thinking like, wow, we have so much to appreciate because we are moving so fast. And even in our frustrations of the processes, we are still moving so fast. Back in, Napoleon's time, they are like hand and foot,
I know.
carrying very heavy equipment and things, and the information that they got and the processes they had to go through, just the communication by itself, weeks, that it would take for someone to ride a horse to to get information across a land, and those things are so fast now. We have a lot to,
Oh,
we still
I
have.
think you picked a interesting point. They used to wait weeks and months before they go and invade a country or a tribe. It's again, they just capturing all the data that's possible about knowing what they are, and otherwise all you, I think it's, I know where I've read this. You can only be wrong once in a war. You can only be wrong once, and you're gone, right?
Right.
So it doesn't take too long. So you have to be fabulously right to exist, in a war scenario. So kudos to you. Good capture there. So, podcast of the week, Mr. David Rose. I love this guy. He is an inspirational. I would call him a researcher, scientist, So I know he used to lead MIT Media Labs, but I don't know if it's doing this still. Um, an amazing mind when it comes to understanding how visualization should happen. So I think I love his perception of that. And an umbrella should tell you that it's going to rain.
Hmm.
So not really. You don't have to look at another sort of gadget to know something else. A rock inside your house should be able to tell you what's the weather outside. So he's talking about enchanted objects. I think I love his philosophy that objects around you should be able to tell. The pill bottle should be able to tell me I missed taking my pill, instead of looking at me in a cell phone and then reading this discrete message and then reacting on the pill or something. So I think
Hmm.
fascinating thinker. So I think
Yeah, talk
he's
about dynamic world.
yeah, I know,
Right.
and his current company, I think it's called Ditto Labs. Shout out to
Yeah.
Ditto Labs, and David Rose. So these guys are doing some fabulous work on taking pictures. So they take pictures and they say, "Hey, we picked that brand." So if suppose there is a Heineken bottle in that picture, so they will say how maybe that picture would be a good branding or perception research on for Heineken or for Coke or for tire, that people actually are happy when things they're around your product or something. So you can do endless possibilities on research when sort of you can connect when you can identify a product within an image and then start clustering those images. Then you'll start the entire theme will emerge. So I think it was a fabulous conversation with him on how he was training his algorithms, how he was adding classifiers, and what are some of the things that he missed, and what are some of the things that are sort of they don't see happening but happened. So
Hmm.
and I've been fan of David for quite some time. I think in our even in our conference, I literally begged him to come. I said, "You have to come. It's this is like my folks needs to hear about your enchanted object philosophy, because many times we think about that. Hey, my solution is better than yours, but
Hmm.
his perception of no, in our habitat, we should all be using this phenomena. I think that's of utmost importance. What do you think?
Yeah, no, this is definitely one I want to go back and listen to again.
It's very good, by the way. So, I would suggest this to all of my friends. Go and watch David Rosen Ditto Labs video. Very informative, and check the website out, by the way, as well. On the fact of the week, uh, excuse me, in that same survey by a small but noticeable margin executives. So I think it's talking about a smaller company is 10% more likely to view data as a strategic edge than a big company. This is scary, but this is evolution, I think, right? So
Hmm.
um, that's why bigger company fail in a big way, right? Because that's sometimes I feel sorry for big companies, and some companies are doing a fabulous job in keeping small, even when they are big. For company like GE, a company like Amazon, so they have a better sense of understanding data, and since their startup inception days, or with the case in GE or IBM, adopting these capabilities in which they change their culture to include data and analysis, um, and that is helping them survive. That's helping them stay competitive. That's helping them. So they took that ugly road of changing their culture to fit to match the current environment. I think that's why. And
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I agree. That's what I was going to say. In a smaller company, certain changes that need to be made can are a little bit more efficient because you don't have so many employees, right? It's not so large. So
right. So I
with
think
those
that's why.
insights that come from there, they can really implement them faster.
Yeah,
Some
and I
of them.
think you have a good point there. So definitely that's kudos to these companies who appreciate and who sort of defy this particular stat, and who sort of, instead of being big, still are seeing data as their competitive strategy. Because even we hear a lot, many businesses who say, hey, we are very data driven, but when you actually work with them, they are struggling with their culture, they're struggling to change, they're struggling to move. And sometimes it's like it's frustrating discussions with their leadership vis-a-vis their data science teams. They have data science teams, but they don't get any say in the decision making. So many
Mhm.
times it's a so. But any companies who actually have been there, done that, they are having a fun time. So my request to every big company out there, please see data as your strategic edge. It doesn't hurt. And you can, if you don't have seen that, accept this by default, and then defy it, like, and then sort of say, no, I found it's not a good thing or whatever, right? But at least you have, I think, and that's why, and this even applies to the hacking side of the world, that assumed you are hacked, then you would be much better prepared than if you say, no, I'm not hackable, right?
Mhm.
So it's the same
Mhm.
conversation. So it's good to be included in the conversation, and then defy, and then say, oh, no, I don't think that's true, rather than the other way and being ignorant about it. I think that's, and the bigger the company, more difficult it would get to see all these trends. So that's why I think you have to find a mechanism to recruit ways to see those trends. I think I remember my discussion with one bunch of BlackBerry folks. They were saying they had a fun time, like their company was growing when the company
Mhm.
share was declining. Like they were hitting their numbers, right? What if the market changed, right? So you need to understand the market. So had they been more responsive to market indicators, they would have survived. I again for disclaimer, I am still a big BlackBerry fan. I still have
Mhm.
my BlackBerry phone with me. So, but yeah, it's a painful truth that we all have to live with. That find a way to recruit this change into your culture. Otherwise, the culture would be obsolete.
Yeah, and I think there's that one quote, and I don't remember who said it, but the illusion of knowing, the illusion of knowing is more dangerous than ignorance because you think you already have the answer. And sometimes when we've made certain insights, um, there's like a high, the company gets like a high,
That's
and
true.
it is thinking that, this is going to solve problems for 5 years when, this just attacks one area that they need to focus on, and there's other areas that need that same attention.
That's true. I think that's well said. And wow. So what a pleasant journey. I think again, thank you, Tao. Good coverage.
Yeah,
I
picking
think
out great things
imagine
that
the
were
entire
really
this thing is
discussed.
just
Huh?
in just one newsletter. So I don't,
Yeah,
like, it's
that's a
just
lot of
it's too much. It's
meat and
it's
potatoes.
it's a brain explosion. So bunch of shameless plugs, by the way. So if you are not into listening to ads, you can tune out now. Otherwise, so we have three programs that we want you to check out. Never Analyze Alone is a program in which we are working with top data scientists and plugging them with our businesses that we are working on, either on a contractual or consulting basis. So we have a big staffing group that we are working with interesting businesses. Host office clubs. So we want people within companies to come out, step out, and do those meetups or do those every monthly meet and greet, say hi, go over to a bar, have beer, whatever sessions, so they can at least start building a very inclusive data science culture. And it's important for data scientists, data science teams, to lead this so-called analytics club atmosphere within the companies, because then they can invite businesses to step into this, so they can off their guard and they can talk to you, they can see you. So this is one of the fabulous strategy to bring everyone on the same page so they can have a good conversation around data science. So this program is to support and promote that. So we have created our own cheat sheet guide that we are asking people to sort of use and start this analytics club culture, invite interesting speakers, invite interesting use cases within your company on data analytics. So businesses will actually, and by the way, if you remember, if you run a network, you own that network, right? So that will make you a permanent asset to a company because you are helping create this community, and God will be happy with you. Now I'm bringing God into this, so this is really gotta be, this is really serious. So this is the sign when you think that this boy is talking something serious. So he'll give you some good perks through good promotions. God guarantees it. So X by Tau is our recruiting arm. Again, we work with top businesses, finding them good talent. If you are a top business or if you are a top talent, talk to us. If you're a lousy business or lousy talent,
We'll help you make
we can point you to a who can help. But we only deal with top business and top talent. So this is a time when we are obnoxious egotists putting a podcast. So anyhow, that brings us to the closure. I hope you like what we are doing. What do you think, Maria? People like what we're doing?
Yeah, I get a lot of emails and I have more than I can go through. So they do like what we're doing, and there's so many people that want to help and volunteer, and we'll make sure that there are things that you can get connected to and know where you can put your attention and efforts, because you can always learn something new and you can always share that, and you don't need much.
I think that's a great idea to actually read some fan emails.
Oh yeah, maybe next time we can do that.
Maybe, yeah, I think that's a that's a good plug. So anyhow, thank you guys and gals. Thank you Analytics Club community. Thank you for your support. Thank you Analytica for giving us number 3.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So keep the air horns running. Keep the excitement going. Do let us know if you like the podcast. And keep your support on. Keep spreading the word that we exist, that you exist, so we can bring a lot of people to data-driven dialogue. So thank you so much. Till the next time, stay data-driven.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
I thought I was sick of home, but actually I was homesick. Never really knew that I would have to grow up so quick. I'm so uncomfortable, don't know anybody here. Just a couple dudes that I met once, that's it. And I go into the booth feeling nervous. Got butterflies in my stomach like I'm so worthless. Is the mic on? I don't know how to work this. Inside I'm breaking down, I hope I'm not up on a